My entitled brother demands to propose to his girlfriend at my upcoming wedding, and when I tell him no, he blows up on me and threatens to boycott my wedding. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I'll start this off by saying that my wedding is scheduled for April because my fiance has always dreamed of a spring wedding, and I really like the idea too. I have an older brother though who's 30 years old, and last Saturday I was called over to my parents' house to talk about something, but they refused to tell me what it was until I got there. They then sat me down with my brother and told me that my brother wants to use my wedding as the perfect day for him to propose to his girlfriend. I was instantly mad and told them absolutely not, but they ganged up on me. I ended up so enraged to the point that I, one man, somehow backed all three of them into a corner. I told them that if they want to do this, then not only will they all be uninvited, but I'll also cut off the financial support I've been giving monthly since they paid to have my golden child brother go through college by taking out a second mortgage. I landed a decently high-paying job and have been sending $500 to my parents monthly to help ease their mortgage. And I didn't ask for a stake in the ownership of their house either because I really don't want it. It was entirely out of goodwill, and I can cut it off anytime. I left without speaking anything more to them, but my brother came to my house the next day to yell at me that I ruined his big chance because now our parents are siding with me and say they'll evict him if he tries to propose at my wedding. He said I was financially blackmailing our parents and that he just wanted a good chance to propose because he was afraid his girlfriend might leave him soon. I said that was his problem, not mine, because my wedding day is not about him, and if he tries to propose at my wedding, I will have him thrown out. That's not a maybe, but a definite, and I doubt his girlfriend would appreciate her proposal followed up by being tossed out by a bouncer. He yelled a few more choice words at me, then went crying to our surviving grandparent, our maternal grandmother. She then got involved and called me to try and ream me over the phone. No big surprise, but my brother heavily embellished the version of the story that he told her, but she still sided with him after I gave her the real story. She tried to hold her ground, but the verbal backlash I ended up giving her left her crying. That got back to my parents, who were also really upset at me for taking things so far, but I told them I only went that far because I had to when they were all trying to get me to let my brother use my wedding as a springboard for his proposal. They ended up agreeing with me finally, but still stated they feel like I'm crass. And my brother showed up at my house again to scream at me, telling me that I'm the jerk and that he hopes that I'm happy with myself for not allowing him the opportunity. My fiance knows what my brother tried to do, and she's very angry about it. She's almost ready to have him uninvited if he pursues this any further. Normally, I have a very mild temper, but when it comes to certain people like my brother, parents, and grandmother, I can easily get short with them because of all the past favoritism. My grandmother especially. She always sided with my brother and believed his lies no matter what he did. She's the biggest reason my parents favored my brother too. She kept trying to convince me over the phone to let my brother propose at my wedding that I ended up losing it on her. I ended up speaking with my big brother again and threatened to tell his girlfriend if he was still intending to propose at my wedding without my permission. He took this very poorly and called me an awful person, so I pointed out that my wedding isn't about him. Our parents were there for this, and they backed me up. I think my brother did a double take when they did that. My dad pointed out that he'd raised my brother wrong, and that was on him. So from now on, my brother was to show them real respect, and they wanted to get an official lease drawn up for him to pay proper rent and utilities. He was only paying them $300 a month without contributing to utilities or food, and if he doesn't want to pay, he can move out and they'll rent his room to someone else. My brother turned to our mom for help, but she agreed with my dad. He looked like he was having a conniption fit and then left the house. He came back after a couple of hours, but spoke to no one and locked himself inside of his room. 2 days later, my brother announced he was moving in with grandma because she invited him, and our parents basically told him that if he wants to live with her, then go right ahead. My brother responded to this by saying that we all hate him for just wanting to propose to his girlfriend, but my parents pointed out that it's not that he wanted to propose, but where he wanted to do it, and he would get no support for it. He's refusing to talk to our parents now, and my grandmother did try to call me again, but it ended up with me telling her that my brother will not be allowed to propose at my wedding, plain and simple, so he can just get over it or just not show up. And the same goes for her. I ended up calling her out for her favoritism towards my brother since we were kids, which she tried to deny at first, but couldn't keep doing so because of how much I'd pointed it out. She ended ended up crying again while I told her that if she keeps trying to insist on this, then she won't be coming to my wedding. She begged me not to rescind her invite, but still said she doesn't understand why I couldn't let my brother have his way before ending the call. My fiance is 100% on my side and is fully ready to remove my brother and grandmother from the wedding. My grandmother hasn't called again, and she's not talking to my parents either. My guess is my brother went crying to her again to tell her mommy and daddy weren't enabling him anymore, so she offered for him to move in with her. But there's literally nothing she can do to sway me, and I think my last conversation with her made her realize that. Now, I didn't wish to tell my brother's girlfriend, but in a roundabout way, she found out what was going on. So she ended up tearing my brother a new one, and he still tried to justify himself to her. That's when she told him that they were through and cut all contact with him. My brother, of course, blamed me, even though his girlfriend said that she's been ready to leave him for a while now, and if he had tried to propose no matter where, she would have told him no. So that's it. My brother showed up at my place one more time to have a fit and said to me that he's boycotting my wedding. He actually thought he had leverage that he and grandma won't go. I said I wouldn't miss him and that he's in his 30s now and he needs to grow up. Our parents have cut him off and are no longer supporting him, and they're already repainting his room to rent it to somebody else. And they plan on renting out my old bedroom as well because they need the money after the financial hole he left them in after dropping out of college just to mooch off of them for a while and then get a degree with online college later, and then barely paying any rent while also making them pay for his food and utilities despite having a good job. They spent the world on him, and he hasn't been the least bit grateful. That made my brother just shut down and leave, and since then we've not heard a peep out of him. And yes, I have very good security hired for the wedding, and they'll toss my brother out like bouncers in a heartbeat if he decides to show up. How insane is that? The audacity of someone to try and come to your wedding just to propose and take away from your special day is literally so disgusting. You have to be so unbelievably entitled to try and pull that off. That's so disturbing to me. It's nice to see that everyone in the family, for the most part, eventually came around and sided with the original poster. I can't imagine anybody trying to justify another family member proposing at your wedding. That's so disgusting and inappropriate. So hopefully everything goes well and this entitled brother doesn't show up, because otherwise there's just gonna be trouble. I have been lying about my education and past professional experience to the guy I've been dating for 6 months, and I don't know what to do. First, some context. When I was 18, I started studying in university, but back then I was severely depressed and ended up staying longer than necessary and still didn't finish the degree. After 5 years, I went to another university, finished this second degree, and now I've finished my master's related to this new field and will start working next week. Back in March of 2022, 4 months after the end of my past relationship, I decided to try and date again, but I wasn't looking for anything serious. I ended up meeting this guy in a dating app who was extremely accomplished, intelligent, highly educated, and so forth. He asked about my academic background and professional experience, and instead of telling him I never finished my first degree and ended up studying somewhere else, which is why I have zero relevant professional experience at this age, I ended up lying by saying I had actually completed my degree at my first university and had worked for 1 year at a company I had never worked at before I decided to study again. I felt extremely self-conscious about my background, and I just assumed he wouldn't be interested in me if he knew the truth. But more than that, I honestly wasn't expecting that we would still be dating 6 months later. We are not exactly official, but we are exclusive. I haven't met his family or anything, but I did meet his best friend last week, and he told this best friend that I had worked at this supposed company, so I ended up lying to his best friend as well, as I definitely did not work at that company. I just don't know what to do. This is the only lie I told, and it's such a stupid one, only because I felt extremely insecure for having failed that first degree and being a 29-year-old with no relevant professional experience. He's becoming well known in his professional field, and I'm just starting my career now, so it just feels like we are several worlds apart. Or maybe this is just my insecurities talking. The problem is that I'm starting to really like him, and I find myself missing him more often than not. Either way, I am extremely embarrassed now. I want to come clean because this lie is eating me alive, but I am afraid that he would never be able to forgive me for that. Maybe if I told the truth in the beginning, but not now. He is an extremely honest person and takes these kinds of things very seriously. What should I do? I honestly don't think it's too late to come clean and tell him the truth. I really think it would be better to do it sooner than later. Sure, it's gonna be embarrassing. It's never easy owning up to a lie, but you know what? You're gonna feel a lot better when you come clean. And if you actually see a possibility of some kind of future with this guy, then you definitely need to come clean. My parents have given me an ultimatum, stating that if I go to college with my girlfriend, they will disown me. And I honestly don't know what to do. For some context, me and my girlfriend have been together for almost 2 years, and the situation is quite dire. The costs are so high where it is, and we're just trying to get it figured out. My girlfriend and I thought it would be wise, not just for our happiness sake, but for money reasons, if we found a room and a small apartment together and split it amongst ourselves. That way, there was no wasting transportation just to see each other, and we would get to spend more time together. And we can help each other with our assignments, while having a shoulder to lean on while we're in the city for general reasons. I brought this up to my mom, saying I think it would be the best idea for saving money, and that I would like to be with my girlfriend and to be happy. But she took this very offensively, getting very mad at me. She started shouting, saying it's very stupid and wants me to get a room alone. And she doesn't care if it costs a lot more. Due to my mom not working and a large family, we are entitled to a grant that pays off my college fees. She uses this against me, saying if I move in with my girlfriend, she will cut off everything with me and disown me in the process. My dad is also agreeing with my mother and is also very aggressively against this. Fast forward to a day after this argument, and my mother has taken it upon herself to book me student accommodations, all while I was working, and barely consulting me, besides asking for information over text messaging. She has now also already paid a deposit, saying there's no going back now. And now my girlfriend is left looking for a room by herself. And this is in a city where it's very hard to find places. And even if you do find a place, it's still very expensive. My mother has gone as far as to ask me to write a piece of paper out stating that I am not moving in with her for college. My girlfriend's family are okay with the thought of us moving in together. However, my mother and father threaten if I do so, I am going to be disowned from the family and they will cut me off from my grant. Anyone have any advice on what to do in this situation? Because I'm honestly not sure what to do. Just so everyone's aware, the person in this story is 19 years old. They are an adult, they can make decisions for themselves, and they've made the decision that, hey, I want to live with my girlfriend. But his controlling parents are deciding what he can and can't do with his life, which in my opinion is just not fair. They should not have a say in what he can and cannot do and where he can and cannot live. That, in my opinion, is not acceptable. The fact that the parents are acting like this just seems like a really weird stance to take. I mean, is there something about this girl that makes him say, no, we do not want our son living with her? It's bad enough that his girlfriend has to try and find a place to live now, but it could have been easier if they were looking together and shared the cost in this big city. Obviously, there's probably a lot of nuance to the grants that you're receiving, but I would personally go to financial aid like today and see if there's any way you can take control of the grants that you have received, as well as possibly pushing your parents aside. That is, if that's what you want to do. Because this controlling attitude and the way they're trying to dictate where you can and cannot live, in my opinion, is super inappropriate. So hopefully this gets worked out, and hopefully you're able to find some kind of accommodation for your girlfriend, even if you can't live with her. Because that's going to be super expensive either way, and that's really not fair for her to be left in the dark, all because your parents are super controlling and being really weird. My wife and I were planning on living in Europe for 3 months, and then suddenly, with less than a week to go, my wife backs out, and I really don't know what to do. The title says it all. My wife and I have plans to live in 3 cities in Europe for a month each, and we are leaving in less than a week. My wife says she's changed her mind suddenly, but that I should still go. We've gone around a few times, semi-arguing about it, and she gives no real reason other than not feeling up to it anymore. Plane tickets were by far the biggest cost and hurdle to this trip, which we bought about 6 months ago, so it's not as if she could just change her mind and join me later without it costing who knows how much. We've done this twice in the past, once to Puerto Rico and once to Colombia, and she has always said that she loved it, hence why we spent a little bit extra to go to Europe this time around. I'm not sure how to take this sudden and unexpected change of heart, as well as her apparently thinking all of a sudden that living apart for 3 months is no big deal. She studied in China for a semester during grad school, and we both agreed it felt way too long to be out of touch with each other's everyday lives. Canceling everything completely at this stage would result in next to no refunds for the most of it, and basically wasting about $20,000. I mean, I am fine going by myself if I have to, and it's not as if I'd get lonely or bored without her. I'd still be working 3 12-hour days, and the extrovert hidden inside of me has no self-confidence issues when it comes to sightseeing on my own, but it's somewhat of a letdown knowing I would be having all these potentially memorable experiences excuses while she decided to stay home for an undefined reason? Should I insist on pushing for a real reason on why she's changing her mind? Is it truly possible she has no real reason? Again, it's completely baffling to me, but trying to dig deeper leads nowhere except arguing in circles. Should I just go anyway and leave her decision a forever mystery? I feel as if this is somehow going to come back and bite me one day, though she assures me it's all her and nothing against me. What should I do? This seems super sketchy to me. Why would somebody all of a sudden say, nah, I don't want to go to Europe for 3 months, after spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on it? That just seems really sketchy in my opinion. There is very clearly something going on that you're not aware of, and that is honestly not a good sign. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely still be going on this trip. After all that money spent, there's no way I'm not going. That's money straight down the drain just because my partner suddenly decides, I don't want to go. That's really selfish and unfair. Maybe that's just me, let me know in the comment section. But to all of a sudden, a week away from when you're supposed to leave, suddenly tell somebody that no, I don't want to live abroad for 3 months. And yes, I'm fully aware we spent $20,000 is incredibly toxic and so disturbing to me. And worst of all, she can't give you a solid reason as to why she doesn't want to go. You've gone on trips to Puerto Rico, you've gone on trips to Colombia, and you both feel after her trip to China that no, we don't want to be apart that long again. So I think it's time for you to put on your investigation hat and really get to the bottom of this, because canceling your plans all of a sudden is not fair. And unless she can give you a solid reason as to why she doesn't want to go, she's literally just being selfish. Today, I messed up by telling my boyfriend that I didn't like his dad. So I've been dating my boyfriend for a little over a year now. We have several differences in terms of family, culture, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Both our families had a tough time accepting each other, but we have put in significant efforts to ensure that we both are respected and accepted by our respective families. His father commented on my weight the very first time he saw me. He also has a problem with the kind of clothes that I wear and my overall lifestyle, which mostly has to be kept a secret from his family because they won't be able to accept my independent Western lifestyle. I live alone with my dog away from my abusive family. I do not speak to my father, and I try to be detached from my overly emotionally dependent mother. My partner is my sole emotional support, and he tries his best to be by me, but he is also too attached to his father, who is 73 years old and frail and needs to be taken care of. Because of his conservative father, I barely get any time with him, since he has to cater to him most of the time. Whenever I visit his place, his sister also must be present, because otherwise, apparently it would be disrespectful to the father. I cannot wear what I am comfortable in, I cannot display affection towards my boyfriend, or be myself overall. The father also has a problem with him pampering me too much, as it conflicted with their cultural expectations. Recently, I had a surgery and my movements are restricted. I would have loved for him to take care of me, but he could only see me for a few hours on the weekends because he cannot leave his dad alone. I also cannot go and stay with him at his place because his sister won't be there. To be fair, my dog is also very active, and that's kind of dangerous for his father. As a result of all of this, my anger has definitely been piling up on his father, but I ended up blasting it all on my partner. Now I feel like absolute garbage because I know he loves his father, and what I had to say did not bode well with him. I'm also questioning my overall future with him because he is too attached to his family, while I do not see myself being close to anyone but him. Also, he wants to get married, have a family, and have kids, as well as give his father grandchildren, but I don't want kids at all. We did discuss kids before getting into the relationship, and it wasn't a deal breaker for him because we really liked each other. It still really isn't. However, I feel that he would be more at peace in a traditional family setting overall, especially considering how his father acts. I'm now at a point where I don't know if I should just break up with him immediately. My head says yes, but my heart says no, because the abandoned child in me loves the kind of love and care he gives me, and I'm scared I'll never find it again. What should I do? I gotta be honest, it doesn't sound like you two are good for each other. I understand that you don't want to be separated from somebody that you love, especially your significant other, because of like previous trauma and stuff like that, but it seems like you two have very different goals. Your boyfriend very much loves his dad. He wants to be there for him and to take care of him, maybe out of obligation, but either way he wants to be there for him. On the other hand, you don't like him being around his family that much, and you only see yourself ever only loving him, which can be okay, but I mean that just doesn't seem fair for him. So he's got to give up his entire family just to only love you? It seems like there's a lot of little things that are not matching up that really need to be considered in this relationship. So hopefully you can find some kind of resolution to this, because from the outside looking in, and how you've described the small things that keep interfering with your relationship, it just does not seem like this is going to last in the long term. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.